Hi, my name is Peter. We've got Clayton here, ML scientist at Arena, and he's got something to tell us which is very close to my heart. It's a new dataset release. So what do we have today?
Yeah, so we're releasing a public archive of all of the released leaderboards that we've published on Arena, going back to the beginning as a single Hugging Face dataset. So we've kind of got all the leaderboard information. You can break it down by arena. You can break it down by time. We've got columns to identify the category or the date that the entries were published. And then for each row, we have all the leaderboard information for a model. So the model name, the organization, the license it's under, and then of course, its score, the confidence interval, the vote counts, things like that.
Amazing. So this is something that I feel like we've been asked like forever by the community. And I think the really cool thing about this, that I think we've got probably the longest running data set of the different models. So how far back does it go, and like how many models do we have in there? What sorts of kind of information can we get out of it?
The first snapshot is from May of 2023, and we have it continuously up to present. So we're really close to 3 years at it now.
Wow.
And we see some really interesting things over time. So for example, we can look at the top 5 models at any given time for that entire span, and we can see sort of over time, the progress of the frontier has raised from just over 1,000 points to almost 1,500 points. And this is because it's a continuous evaluation of models playing against each other in the same pool with common opponents. Like we can actually compare how much stronger models have gotten over time.
Yeah, and I can see there's quite a big jump as well. For example, in January 2024, that seems like quite a big shift. And yeah, you're right. We can definitely see like there's almost no places where it's like flattened out for any period of time, really.
Yeah, so there's some interesting things. So we both see advances in the overall field, but we also see advances in the field of evaluation, because at the end of 2023 into 2024, there was some interesting model releases, but also that's when we switched to the leaderboard from being ELO to being calculated by Bradley Terry. So we have notes of that in the dataset README too, of important dates where methodological changes were made, just to put the leaderboard into context too.
How do you think enthusiasts, community members, researchers should be thinking about and using this data?
That's a good question, because you're right. We had a lot of people ask about it. We had people from the model labs who want to see it and track how their models are performing over time against their competitors. We've had people from academic labs interested in this because they want to understand the dynamics of statistical confidence intervals and this sort of evaluation methodology from a scientific standpoint. And there's just a lot of enthusiasts. So people on Discord, people on Twitter who, you know, maybe they've scraped our site and created their own graphs over time, but we're trying to make it a lot easier for them to extract any sort of insights. So, you know, comparisons across arena, comparisons across time, comparisons across category, comparisons across open and closed license, all of these things are going to be made super simple because it's all downloadable straight from Hugging Face.
And what kind of categories we're covering as well? Because I know this is looking at the tax data, but we also have a bunch of other categories as well.
So Hugging Face has different organizational structures, but we have a subset for each arena, and then some of the arenas have subsets for style control or without style control. Then we have splits, which are by time. So there'll be a latest split, which is just holding the information that we've published most recently. And then there's a full split that will contain all of the information in that arena going back to the beginning. And then once you're in a split and a subset, then we have columns to identify the category. So sort of the default is overall. That's what you'd see if you just go to the leaderboard on our site. But then you can filter the leaderboard data in from the data set on any of the other categories that we have on our site, so like math, coding, instruction following, things like that.
Okay, very, very interesting. How many models then have we published information on?
That's a great question. So we did some analysis on this, and we actually just recently crossed 700 cumulative unique models tested across all of our arenas. And as we look at that graph, how they've increased over time, we see like quite a proliferation in terms of different modalities, especially into 2025 when we're seeing different combinations of images as inputs, images as outputs, videos as inputs, video editing, different combinations of tool uses. So like we're really accelerating in the total amount of models that we're testing over time, and especially across different modalities.
And what about open source with proprietary models?
Yeah, that was something I was really curious about myself. This one isn't over time. That would be an interesting thing to look at too. But we have the fraction of models that are under non-proprietary licenses by arena. I was really surprised that actually on the text arena, more than half of the models are under some sort of open source license, but all of the other arenas are pretty much lower than that. And this is my own theory, but I think it's because the open source ecosystem is largely focused towards text models. It's much easier to get started in fine-tuning on text models than other modalities.
Yeah, especially I think video models, I guess we do have a few open source models, but yeah, it's probably a lot heavier lift to do open source versus text models. Are there any particular kind of analysis do you think that you expect or you're hoping for the community to do?
What I'm really most excited for is the type of analysis that I haven't thought of. So by having this out there, it's like it's a tool that anyone can use, and I want to see the most creative and crazy things that people can think of and find in this data set, because I can explore this data all day myself, but if more people are looking at it, they'll find a lot more interesting things.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's one of those things that I started myself looking at Arena's data, doing exactly this, scraping the data and mapping it over time and doing some extra analysis. And I would say there's like really unlimited amount of new ideas you can come up with in terms of different analysis that you can do. And yeah, I would definitely agree that if you are experienced researcher or just starting out, it's one of those things that you can just dig into the data. It's really nicely structured, and you can really just go explore and see what are the interesting insights you can find out. Because that's really, really nice historic data set. I don't think there's anything else where you can go and look at the model performance over multiple years, pretty much covering the entire history of the field.
Mm-hmm. And we just set up automated pipelines, so this will get updated every day that we update our leaderboard, so we can continue the analysis going forward and see how things evolve.
So Clayton, where can they find the data?
So we put it on Hugging Face as a data set, and we'll put a link to it in the description below.
All right, awesome. Check out the data. I can't wait to see what you're going to build.